What is going on, guys? We are back here with another World of Warcraft video. In today's video, we are going to be going over the Druid Dragonflight talent preview. Yes, Blizzard did just come out, randomly out of the blue, just dropped the entire talent tree for every single specialization for Druids and Deathknights. So in this video, we're going to go over the Druid one. I'm just going to give my first impressions, get some reactions about what's happening. And then we're going to go through the Death Knight one in a separate video. All right. So to start, this is what the talent tree kind of looks like. But if you want to check this out, this will be in the description below if you want to look at all the stuff yourself. But Blizzard basically came out and they just started doing some corrections and stuff like that. But let's just take a look at some of the pictures. So this is what the Feral Druid one looks like. It is a work in progress still, so none of this is set in stone. The alpha is not even out yet, but you can kind of see some of the cool things. You have like Skull Bash you can talent into, Cyclone, and maybe this is an improved survival instincts, things like that. That's always a great thing. Convoke Incarn, we saw that in the what's it called? In the announcement video that, you choose between Incarn or Convoke, which is good. This really shows that they are bringing back some of the Covenant abilities, which is a good thing. But yeah, nothing really too much you can go through. There is a section below that we're going to go through that talks about all of the abilities that you're going to get from the talents and everything like that, and all the base abilities that Druids are going to be getting for every single specialization. But yeah, we're just going to go through some of these, see if we see anything cool. Tiger's Dash for Guardian Druid, that's pretty cool. Or Wild Charge, that's always good. Incap Roar, you have to talent into Incap Roar. Alright, sure. Innervate. Innervate is a big one that people were discussing, because as it stands, only Boomkins and Resto Druids can have Innervate. But now Feral and Guardian can talent into Innervate, which is a really big thing, because that's just a really good buff for your healers in a raid, and it gives a reasoning for Druids other than Boomkin and Balance, like Balance and Resto, to be brought to raids and Mythic Plus dungeons and everything like that. I did just see something over here. Interesting. So this is Guardian. So they actually have the legendary Ursoc legendary, Thrash legendary here as a talent. That is really, really cool. So not only are they that's actually really, really cool right there. So not only are they doing talents and abilities that you've previously had, but legendary effects are also going into this. Okay. All right. Convoke Incarn, same old. I do like this. This is the sleeper power that you had, the Legion artifact weapon. It looks like that's going to be coming back as a talent. That is great. That was a really good ability. I played Guardian Druid a lot in Legion, and when I went to BFA and played Guardian Druid without this ability, the class felt dead, right? You gained so much power from this one ability that when you didn't have it, it was really bad. Everything else kind of looks basic. If I miss something, right, let me know in the comment section down below if I miss something really big, and I'll respond to it or whatever. But yeah, let's keep going. Resto Druid. The big thing with Resto is now getting an interrupt. Now every single healer in the game is getting an interrupt, or at least should be from what we see. They can talent in the Skull Bash, which is great. But other than that, I think there was actually another one here. Where is it? There was in Dispel. You had to talent. Yes. Remove corruption right here. So you can now talent into Dispel. Now, I've heard a lot of people argue that, like, why would you talent into Dispel? Like, everyone's going to be using that. But if you really think about it, like, everyone's going to talent into it. So, like, that's just one talent point gone from your tree that you can't use on something else. But if you really think about it, there's a lot of boss fights in raids where you don't need a Dispel, right? So you can put that into an improved ability somewhere else, right? So what if you didn't need a Dispel, but you needed an interrupt? You could interrupt into you can talent into Skull Bash for raid as a Resto Druid over talenting into an interrupt, right? Not interrupt, into a Dispel. That's really cool. Like, it gives the nuance of choice, right? Even though for a majority of content, you're going to be choosing Dispel, you don't have to, right? Like, if you're doing world content, you don't really need a Dispel. But you can use an interrupt. You can interrupt ability, so you can talent into that. It's a great choice. All right, on to Balance. What do we see here? I've heard some rumors about some really big things in here for balance, but I don't see it. Actually, the big thing is balance can now have 2 interrupts, assuming they still get Solar Beam, which they do. They can talent into Solar Beam right here. It looks like they can have Skull Bash and Solar Beam, so they have an AOE interrupt plus a single target interrupt. That's really cool, right? One of the weaknesses that Balance Druid specifically had in keys, in Mythic Plus keys, was that they had a really bad interrupt. So dungeons like Theater of Pain or Necrotic Wake, where having a lot of interrupts really makes these dungeons easier. Now they're going to be a lot, like, you can bring these classes, not specifically to these dungeons, because obviously we're not going to be doing these dungeons when these talent trees are out. But in the next expansion, in Dragonflight, if there are dungeons with lots of interrupts in one of the dungeons, like lots of casts in one of the dungeons, you can bring a Balance Druid and not feel bad about not having an interrupt. Now, the interesting thing will be whether or not they can use Skull Bash out of cat form, and if they're in Boomkin form, if they can use Skull Bash and it'll put them into cat form, or do they have to be in cat form first? Because that's about 2 GCDs that a Moonkin will be losing to interrupt something compared to most other classes, which is only 1, right? They'll have to switch into cat form, then interrupt, then switch back into Moonkin form, right? But we'll see. Obviously, all this will be tested on the alpha, but that should be it, right? Yep, we're back to Feral. So if we go down here, there is a little thing here. They're just basically talking about why they've chosen to do the new talent system and how, they decided what would go where and the paths and everything like that. But then here in this blue post, they actually go through all of the base abilities and all the class talents, Balance, Feral, Guardian Druid, and Resto. So if we go here, if we take a look, so base talent, the base abilities, Wrath, obviously Moonfire. I'm not gonna go over what all these abilities are, unless I see one that I don't know or that doesn't really make sense or is new. So Wrath, Moonfire, Regrowth, Revive, Entangling Runes, Bear Form, Barkskin. So this was the big one. I did hear about this. Mark of the Wild is back. So if you don't know what Mark of the Wild is, it is a raid buff or a buff that druids used to be able to cast, that would back then they changed it to be more like a battle shout, but now it's completely changed to be its own separate one. So it increases the target's speed and critical strike chance by 3% and reduces their magic damage taken by 3% for 60 minutes. If the target is in your party or raid, all party and raid members will be affected. This is great, right? So one of the arguments that was made for specifically Feral Druids, because they didn't really bring any utility to the raid, right? They didn't have Innervate. They didn't have a raid buff. They overall were low on the damage. They were a melee class. So already you didn't want to be bringing too many melee in the first place. But now, the fact that if you don't have a Balanced Druid, you can recruit a Feral Druid and you'll get your Mark of the Wild buff, which is really, really good. On top of them bringing Innervate and all these other things. So this is a good change in the sense that with raid buffs existing, yes, every class should have a raid buff in a sense. I probably will be doing a video later on about raid buffs and why they're bad for the game. I don't think adding more raid buffs fixes the problems that we have in this game. But giving a raid buff to a class that is really only brought if it does massive damage is a good change, right? But overall, it's looking good. I do really, really enjoy the look of the talent tree. It does look like they've done a lot of work, and the fact that this is going to be one of the major systems in Dragonflight is exciting. It has nothing to do with your grinding or anything like that. It's just a base system that you're gonna have that's gonna be fun to play with and test around with, especially on the alpha and beta. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. Let me know if I missed anything in this little rundown of it. The most important takeaways are you talent into Dispel now. Resto Druid has an interrupt now. Boomkin has a second interrupt now. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.